Hello.
My lips look super red right now.
Yeah, it's the color.
Lipstick.
It does look like blue lipstick. Ba 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 ba.
Sounds like aliens are taking over Mom's computer.
I don't think it's a computer. I think it might be his controller. What are you doing right now, bud? So what are you doing right now?
Sorry, I was texting.
Texting?
Yes.
Who you texting? That turned me really
My friend,
Yeah, I know.
my friend was asking me if I could give her a ride to work tomorrow. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's literally on the way.
Fair enough.
It's literally on the way.
You want to give me a ride to work tomorrow?
We don't go to work tomorrow.
I know.
If I was living, in Florida, I'd definitely give you both rides.
I mean...
It's a good thing I have a car.
Oh, speaking of... Come on. Not speaking of rides. I don't know why I said that. I just... In my brain, I made the connection because you and I went to the movies when I lived there. I that's the only connection I made, and I was like, oh, I was in his car for that. Sorry.
Oh, it was the terrible one.
Are you going to see Brand New Day?
Yes, I am. Tomorrow.
Fucker! We're seeing it on Saturday.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to see it tomorrow with my family.
No spoilers, no nothing. I'm gonna talk to you about it when we're after Saturday.
Yes. Also,
I want to know
they
Sadie
added
Sink's character, but I'm gonna avoid fucking everything on social media until I see the movie.
That is true, because I saw, because I did see, like, she was a new actor. I'm like, hello? Who are you?
So, people are suspecting she's, like, Gwen, or she's, oh, fuck, I literally just had the fucking name in my head. Jane Foster? Not Jane Foster. Wrong Jane. Jane something. Not Jane Foster, sorry. Jane Foster's Thor. Fuck, what was the name?
Jane something. I know Mary Jane.
Jane something, I believe. And she's an X-Men. Is who they were thinking. But it's not Jane Foster. Jane Foster is fucking... is the scientist chick.
Wait.
So she was Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, fuck. I know her name.
I off the top of my head, I just had it in my head and I fucking forgot about it.
Jean Grey. Jean Grey.
Grey, thank you.
Jean Grey.
Jean.
Jean Grey.
Oh my
Jean
god, I'm
Grey.
dyslexic. Anyways.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, so it's speculated that she's either Jean Grey or Gwen. And we're not allowed to know. And I wonder why we're not allowed to know. I mean, I guess it's a huge plot point considering Doomsday's coming up, which is kind of why I'm thinking she's Jean Grey, because Doomsday's coming up. Oh fuck, when does Doomsday come out again? The 10th of October? No, December? What is it? I don't fucking know, I don't remember. I think it's December 2nd or October 2nd, and I can't remember which.
Wow. December 18th.
December 18th! Oh fuck, it wasn't a 2, it was an 18. Okay. Anyways, December 18th is when Doomsday comes out, which is why I'm thinking she's Jean Grey, because according to the last trailer that we had of Doomsday, we're seeing a ton of fucking X-Men.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the Fantastic Four. We're seeing fucking Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, but like.
And whatever the fuck his name is, Joe something. Guy who played Eddie.
Ryan Reynolds isn't gonna be Johnny Storm.
Ryan Reynolds.
No, Chris Evans. Chris Evans.
Ryan Reynolds has only been Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
Ever.
The Green Lantern, but that's DC.
But yeah, that's
but yeah,
different.
Chris Evans isn't gonna be Johnny Storm, and I'm disappointed because I liked his Johnny Storm.
I mean,
wait,
we don't
did you guys see
necessarily
Deadpool
know.
Wolverine?
Did we what? What, huh?
Did y'all see Deadpool Wolverine?
Yes.
Oh. So I was gonna say, because I forgot Johnny Storm was in a movie.
Yeah, Johnny Storm was in the movie. And Deadpool got so excited because he's like, oh, this is it. This is the Captain America righteousness moment. And then came with Flame On. Pretty good.
I was like, what?
Pretty fucking good.
Wait, Chris Evans was Johnny Storm, and
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So, they go to some, like, desert landish area in another dimension. Or another world or something.
Mm.
And, Elektra's also there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Whatever that actress's name is. That I can't remember.
Oh, Jennifer Garner.
There you go.
Yeah, but like
Ooh, I'm about to
Elektra,
make
Elektra and like Daredevil and all of them are like dead.
Ooh, I'm about to make a
She's
name for
definitely
myself.
But I saw I get a kind of press, kind of not press thing with Doomsday the other day with, Ryan Reynolds dressed as Deadpool and went to a showing of the trailer with, like, at least most of the characters, not all the characters.
Yeah.
But most of the people in Doomsday. And he goes, so are you guys, like, done filming the movie? And they're like, well, yeah, it's been wrapped. And he goes, oh, I guess I don't belong then. And he walks out.
I thought Ryan Reynolds wasn't doing any more Deadpool
He's
stuff.
not. That's why he dresses Deadpool only to make the joke of, oh, Deadpool's not going to be in this movie.
Oh.
Because I'm not Deadpool anymore. Blah, blah, blah. It's pretty good. Oh my god, you get fucking banned. Go fuck.
What do you guys think about Ryan Gosling as a Ghost Rider?
Who?
Ryan Gosling? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
I don't think he
If I
belongs
hope I-
in a superhero movie, but
Nicolas Cage is the only Ghost Rider.
Nicolas Cage is too old.
well, they wanted Keanu Reeves.
Oh yes, please. Never mind, I take it back. Keanu Reeves can be Ghost Rider.
But yes, Ryan Gosling is going to be Ghost Rider.
I don't know how I feel about that because I don't actually care for Ryan Gosling.
I don't like that.
He also has upcoming movies. Called there's one called Star Wars Starfighter.
Wait, I thought Pedro Pascal was Mr. Fantastic.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Nathan Fillion.
No, it's Pedro Pascal.
Is it Pedro Pascal?
Yep.
Who was Nathan Fillion? Am I thinking he's Green Lantern? Who the fuck is I swear to God it was Nathan
Okay,
Fillion.
I wouldn't mind seeing him as Green Lantern.
The only thing I see Nathan Fillion in is The Rookie.
Well, yeah, that's true. He's apparently in. Oh yeah, he's in Superman. Okay, he's Green Lantern.
Oh, he was Green Lantern. Duh. I've seen the movie.
I'm picturing him as a different fucked up blonde. Sorry.
You know what? He would have been really good as Nathan Drake. I'm kidding.
I wanted Nathan Fillion to be Nathan Drake so bad, because he would have been a great Nathan Drake.
I think Tom Holland did okay.
Oh,
We watched that movie.
That's right, we did. I keep forgetting.
I think the only reason they really didn't go with Nathan Fillion, because I'm pretty sure Nathan Fillion auditioned, but he was older, and he's about, I think he's about the same age as Mark Wahlberg. He's 55.
Nathan Fillion is 55 years old.
How old is Mark Wahlberg? Oh, you don't say. 55. They're the same age. So.
That's sad. Nathan Fillion is the same age as my parents. To be fair, so
10
was
years younger than my mom.
to be fair, so was Keanu Reeves and Johnny Depp and all them other actors.
All the old
Oh,
people.
You know
Johnny
what
Depp
movie-
dresses Ebenezer Scrooge or something.
You know what movie made me sad after watching it?
Infinity War. Oh,
Oh,
whoops.
Not only that. Let me- I got it. I'm recreating it right now.
I'm in mouth pain, but I win. Bro, I'm also in mouth pain. Hi, Bo. We share the same boat. Good to see ya.
All right. Recreated the room. No, the movie called Hours with Paul Walker in it. I don't know if you guys saw that
I
movie.
remember the Netflix show You, and that's the only, like...
Yeah, there's a movie called Hours with Paul Walker in it, and it's about like so
Fuck.
he's playing as a father who was with his wife.
So I hope it's not this clown movie thing that I just saw.
What?
There's... The movie that you're talking about, there's a Spanish movie called Hours the Movie that has a fucking clown as the thing.
so Alex lied.
Oh no.
Yeah,
In about 20 minutes.
he lies a lot. Yeah, but me too. I got an infection in my wisdom tooth. Which tooth's hurting you, buh? Let's bond over mouth pain.
But yes, a movie called Hours came out in 2013. Follows a father named Nolan, who is with his wife, and they're about to have their child. But his wife dies during childbirth, and then he has to make sure that his infant daughter is still alive because she's in like a kind of like an oxygen. Fuck, I can't even speak. He has to keep his premature newborn daughter alive while Hurricane Katrina is hitting New Orleans as the power goes out, and then everyone evacuates. He's still there, and he has to manually power the ventilator to keep her alive.
Sounds like Bubble.
It's the most, I'm not gonna lie, it's the most sad, like the saddest movie I ever watched, and I'm just like, holy shit.
Nope. Still cute. Still cute. I can't watch movies like that.
Mhm.
I'd be fucking distraught and heartbroken, and I can't do that.
My favorite book
Ooh.
as a child called It.
And that's
Do you like?
also I haven't read the movie, but I saw the movie I read the book, but I saw the movie adaptation. It's fucking awful.
They made a movie about it?
I believe.
All I know is the book, which I own.
What movie?
Child named it.
Child called It.
Called it. Sorry.
Sounds like Pennywise. I'm kidding. Okay,
It's,
do you guys like time travel movies?
Okay, never. Do we like what?
Time travel movies.
Yes,
Absolutely.
my favorite my favorite technical time travel movie is The Lake House.
I got one. Project All in Mac.
I thought you were gonna say, I like Project Adam, and then I'm like, first of all, that's Adam Project, but yeah.
No, the
Project
movie's called
Almanac?
Project yes, Almanac.
Oh,
Bro
my
can't
neck.
speak.
I can't speak today for some reason.
Bro can't
Um,
speak.
What I can remember is that it's about like
Whoops.
these group of teenagers find this guy finds this old camera, and he comes across a clip from his birthday where he sees himself in that footage, and that's when they discover like time travel. But due to like them doing like things like going back in time or going forward, doing like messing with time, it comes with consequences.
Well, yeah.
But it was a pretty interesting movie. I remember watching it at my friend's house, and I was like, time travel scares me.
Fair.
See, the time travel movies I watch are all like romance. Because there's The Lake House, and then there's The Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh, I did hear about that.
Yeah, it's actually really cute. I mean, it's sad because like he can never like meet her at the like when he finally does meet her at the right time where she's like the right age and everything. Like I don't know, they just have to maneuver around. The sad part is when she finds out she's pregnant and her daughter is a time traveler. So she ends up miscarrying because her daughter time travels outside of her womb.
Wow. Pop it on now. Yeah, you're a little late, Alex.
He's not hopping on now. He sent that like 5 minutes ago. He's a liar.
He says, I'm gonna knock out. I'm still up. No, I'm kidding.
Hi, people.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
I
Speak
have
of
a-
the devil.
We weren't trash talking you at all.
Yeah, we totally weren't watching the stream where you guys were trash talking me.
Hi.
Hi.
Uh-huh.
I don't know
I
who
think
you guys
nothing.
are. I'm doing whatever the fuck I want to do and not speaking.
Hey, man,
Why
all
did
I'm
you-
saying is y'all could have been playing this whole time. I told you guys could have played this whole
We
time,
were
and you guys
talking
decided
about
not
movies because we're watching Brand
I
New
know, you were
Day.
talking about
Fuck
Marvel.
you.
Hey,
Go
hey,
fuck
Britt,
yourself.
you
Yes.
stuttered there, so you kind of gave it away.
What?
You stuttered it a little
I
bit.
hear
So
my
you
game.
basically gave
Stuttered?
it away.
Oh. Oh. Shut up.
What brand new day? Apparently, I'm not allowed to hear my game.
Nope.
Today.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
Why would you be allowed to do that?
I don't know. It was working a second ago. I'm undocking and redocking. Maybe that'll help it. I don't know. Huh? Oh, I forget your game is physical. Why do you do this to me?
Why you do this to me?
So I guess Zach's not joining.
He might.
He said he
soon.
might have. Because he said after 11 he would be free, and it's just now after 11, so give the guy a
He
minute.
was helping his dad with something.
Aw,
Yeah.
Such a good son.
Hey, I hear game now.
Honestly, too good of a son sometimes.
Okay, I will be right back to grab Maggie her game.
Oh, seriously?
Oh my gosh.
Strange.
That's my-
It's gonna be weird going back to work tomorrow. Oh? Okay.
They're doing stuff. Fuck it.
They do stuff.
They're doing stuff. Kibby.
Oh. Ow.
Oh my god. I blame you, Vaughn.
That is the first time I've legitimately
Really?
used a little side lamp in the living room. Mute me.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
oh my god.
What is this?
I can't. I just
I
can't.
don't think so.
Ow.
What are you talking about? Oh, did you guys actually hop in a match after? Okay.
Yes.
You're busy.
Yeah, I stepped away for 10 seconds!
I'm trying to figure out my fucking buttons again and I can't.
I have no idea why you're hearing double.
There it is.
Wait, you're not
10
even
seconds.
into the call. What? Oh, there you are. Now you're in the call.
Oh, fuck your thunder.
Ah. Ah.
Hi, Zoe. Okay, bye, Zoe. Well, I guess I'll take my sweet pet. Yeah, she hopped up on my lap, saw I didn't pet her for 2 seconds, and then she ran away.
She said,
Ah.
fuck you, Dad.
Oh, we're moving.
Hold on. There we go.
I need to do this.
Oh, fuck. Dude, I
there we
seriously
go. That
can't.
should
I
be
can't
good.
focus on jack shit because of this fucking.
I don't know why it's lagging.
Because of this
Shouldn't-
lag,
like,
dude.
I was
It's so bad.
I mean, we
I
are
was
playing
fine
halfway
playing
across the
with
I
you.
blame you
people.
because you host.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably.
normally I'm host.
Stop going
so-
after me. She has 4 lives, bro. Stop going after me. She has 4 fucking lives, bro.
I just wanted to be a dick.
Fuck.
I don't know how. I'm doing so good. I think it's because Alex.
Oh my god, that's...
Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon.
Why? Why? I pressed B twice.
No! No!
Dude, I fucking hate this game. I fucking hate this game, dude. I hate this lag, actually. The lag is the problem, because I didn't fucking do that just then. I side B'd.
Blame Vaughn.
I am blaming Vaughn. Vaughn's a fucking dick.
No.
Dude, even the final smash is fucking lagged to shit.
Part of the problem is the fact that Vaughn has it set up for 8 people to join, when we only have, 6 people that are actually gonna join.
I fucking landed in it because I can't see anything, dude. I can't see what's happening. I can't pay attention in fucking stock motion.
Should we just all, like, SD
I'm
them?
fucking, yeah, no, I'm leaving this shit.
But I was
Alright.
winning.
I'm sorry, I can't even fucking pay attention. I can't.
Alright, Alex,
You
build a
gotta
room.
fucking stop, please. I'm trying
so
to.
I'm
I'm
making a
trying
new
to
room?
get the fuck out, and it's not letting me. Fuck me. No, fuck this game.
Alright, I'm making a new room right now.
Dear God, Vaughn, fix your fucking internet.
It's not my fault.
It is your fault. Fuck
It was-
you.
No.
Connection error has occurred.
It was just fine when I was facing other
Yes, it
people.
Should we do top or bottom leave?
Oh my God, this is awful. Oh,
Bottom leave is good.
yeah, it's hit bottom. Oh, alright.
I'm making a new room. Because Vaughn has shitty internet.
Anything.
Ah! What the fuck?
Alright, we're open.
Do we have items and shit on?
No, do we want items and shit on?
Let's do items and Final Smash.
Okay, give me a minute. I have to change the rules.
It was actually kind of sad. I was winning.
You're winning because Kirby can do ball and be fine, and my side B wasn't registering jack shit because of the fucking lag.
You're fucking wrong.
Dude, it was awful. I cannot pay attention in stop motion. I pressed my fucking Final Smash 4 times on Vaughn and it didn't fucking work.
We're waiting for Vaughn.
We are waiting for Vaughn.
Not anymore.
So I'm making our neighbor's ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They got addicted to her homemade ice cream.
How
We
old?
actually have neighbor friends. Can you turn on the fan?
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad.
For some
It would be a
reason,
lot.
I don't know why, my non-electric, non-heating chair feels like it's heating up my back. It's 'cause
Yeah,
it's
sorry,
hot.
chiming back into the conversation. Yeah, no, we are acquainted with our neighbors. We haven't, like, been buddy-buddy with them. Oh, god damn it, Vaughn! Don't do it. He hopped in the stands and then hopped out.
Wait, what?
There
Get in
you
the
go.
stands so you can watch the game.
Yeah, you got in the
Oh.
stands and then you hop right back out of them.
Oh,
Anyways,
sorry.
what about your neighbors, Alex?
Yeah, so we're just acquainted with our neighbors, but as far as, like, the making ice cream thing, I have made ice cream one time last November, right? It was last November I did that. Because Maggie can't have actual ice cream, and her favorite flavor is butterpecan, which, there is no dairy-free versions of it, so I made
Oh, I
dairy-free
can't
versions.
jump after side B. Fuck me.
You know what? Alex
Well, that
is
happened.
first. I died.
What'd I do?
In the first 5 seconds, I died. Alex was
Alex wasn't even after you. I was after him.
Yeah, but I fell.
Oh, I don't have wall jump on this character.
Holy shit.
I'm just swimming.
There is still lag, and I think it's just because Vaughn exists.
I think so too.
No, not my fault.
But it's not nearly
It
as bad as it was.
100%
Fuck
is.
me. Damn it.
Sorry, Maggie.
Oh shit. I tried.
To be fair, I was just fine
Cool.
facing the players online.
Alright, no one goes to school. JK, everyone goes to school.
Alex is going to
I
school.
thought I was getting hit by that thing immediately because it landed on my fucking head.
There goes Sandy.
Also, is this Vaughn in the cage? This is Vaughn in the cage.
Is that me in the cage? Get me out of there.
It's you in the cage.
Why do I keep going on this school bus?
Ah shit.
I'm dead.
Run.
Oh, you just knocked it on me immediately.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's
Let's go!
bullshit. The monster got me.
Let's go!
Come on.
Alex should die from this.
That's fine. You die to a breath.
Yes!
Oh, there goes Mike.
Ah! Damn you! Damn you! Fuck you.
Oh,
No!
Britt got...
How'd you hit me immediately
the,
after that?
Oh, there she goes.
Oh, bye-bye. And I'm dead.
So, Alex, how do you
Maggie,
make
you terrify me.
homemade ice cream?
I looked up a recipe for it. Do I remember what all the ingredients were? Not at all.
So, my mom's recipe calls for, like 2 cups of sugar, half a gallon of milk. You can use any milk, you don't have to use regular milk. We used lactase this last batch I made. And
Meg.
actually, it's really good.
Good spacing, good spacing.
And then it's 11 ounces of heavy whipping cream, vanilla, and 6 eggs.
The problem with that is part of that is the whipping cream, and she can't have whipping cream. So I had to come up with a substitution for that on top of everything else. I was already doing substitutions.
You made her dairy-free stuff.
Oh, that reached?
I think they make dairy-free.
Good game though. That was really good.
I think they make dairy-free heavy whipping cream, or you can make.
They do, but not at Walmart. So I had to go. I just made my own.
Didn't you make her a milkshake? That's why we got the blender.
I did also make her a shake. Yes, that is a thing.
I'm pretty sure that was 2 years ago.
But mom's.
That was 2 years
mom's
ago, and
recipe,
last year. I did both years.
Mom's recipe called for condensed milk or evaporated milk, and she replaced the evaporated milk with heavy whipping cream.
I heard somebody's choose your fighter.
So it's me and Maggie stay. It's everyone except someone. Who's last?
Sandy.
Everyone except someone.
Everyone except someone. That is exactly how that works.
I mean, I wasn't wrong.
Congratulations.
Yeah, okay, so the recipe I have here is 1.5 cups of milk, her milk specifically, and half a cup of butter. That's how you make her whipping cream. On top of that, there's 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, 1 egg yolk, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 1.5 cups of chopped pecans.
It can't be regular butter, right?
I use her butter, yes.
Is it the can't believe it's not butter or whatever the fuck it's called?
I don't remember what it's called.
Fuck.
Ow.
Fuck you.
Let's keep
shit.
smashing.
Jesus. Bye bye.
Oh, Brent, no!
Bye bye. I tried to jump and I was fucking fucked up.
Sorry.
Fucked up.
Ah, fuck. I tried shielding and apparently that's not my shield. That's my shield.
You like chicken? I totally fucked up.
Fuck. Oh. Oh my god. I think it's
Ow,
Vaughn.
rude.
I think it's Vaughn.
It is Vaughn.
No.
I can guarantee you if Vaughn wasn't in this lobby, this lag would not exist.
I checked my internet too, and it was just fine. Oh!
Oh, God.
Fuck with
That's
your
fine. I'm only at
This
60.
is awful. Ah, shit. Ah,
Oh.
fuck.
Sorry, Brett.
Ah, fucking piece of shit.
I was hoping you were going to do it again so badly.
Oh, I lost my jump. Fuck.
No!
Fuck you, Alex.
No.
Okay, this lag is eating my inputs, and I don't like it.
It's awful, dude.
No, the thing I wanted! I blame Vaughn.
Oh, come on, yes! No, the thing I wanted.
The world's longest final smash.
Oh my god.
It's out of here.
Oh, bye.
Mine.
Oh, okay, that doesn't protect against items. I've learned something
Nope.
today.
You learned something new. Come
Ah,
here.
fuck.
I should have still had
Shouldn't have landed
invincibility.
there.
Maggie, Maggie,
You know.
Maggie.
I'm dead.
Damn it. Oh. Oh.
Ah.
Oh.
Well, I'm last. Or at least I don't have to worry about this shit anymore.
Well, that's okay. If Zach does in fact join, then you won't be the only one.
Oh yeah.
Go.
Then it'll be bottom 2 rotate? Or top 2?
It would be bottom 2, yes. Bottom 2, bottom 2, bottom 2. Yeah! Joker number 2!
Oh.
Number 2. The purple ditto.
What happened?
Holy.
Yeah, this lag is very, very bad.
Uh-huh.
Give me that stuff.
What do you think? Oh yeah. He got an item that was a ditto.
Oh.
The
No.
I'm gonna be so honest, just because it's
Uh,
purple, I
bullshit!
would not know which one is Alex and which one's the ditto. Not in this lag.
But also, like, my sword misses her, but then her final smash hits me. Thank you, game.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I want to know why they decided to call him Ditto.
Rude.
Because he can change
Ditto
it.
is literally like me too.
Well, no, I know what Ditto means because my sister says.
Okay, my up B failed.
It's because he changes
Custom
into
stage,
anything.
yay.
So this is me too. This is ditto.
If you tell my sister I love you, she literally goes Ditto.
She'll yeah, my brother does the same thing.
Yeah. That's
Unless
literally
he
me
says
too.
I love you first, he will say ditto if you say I love you. Or any form of love you at all.
Damn it.
Because he's the cool guy. He can't show emotion.
Yeah, exactly. Even though he said I love you to me earlier today, so haha. I won.
Now he's exposed on the internet.
He does tune into stream every once in a while. He doesn't say
Here
anything,
comes my
but he
streams.
does watch both of our streams.
He didn't say anything in my
what the
stream.
He doesn't
Huh?
say anything in mine either.
Oh, so he just lurks.
He just, yeah.
Because I don't.
He's just like, oh, I see you guys, like, online, and sometimes I, tune in.
Here,
I
someone
don't
jump
say
in.
anything, though. I don't want to be noticed. Like, okay.
What? So, what do you mean? What?
Someone jump in for me. Let me see if I can test the connection. Because I don't know why it's acting like this.
I need a lag-friendly character.
I want...
Dude, it was
Kirby apparently is a really
fun.
lag-friendly fucking character.
Yeah, that's
You got
exactly what.
Oh,
Sonic 2.
oh, well, yeah.
just press B.
Sonic, you're just a fucking ridiculous ball.
Learn from Markiplier. Press B to blow.
I had that.
I feel like Ganondorf would be good.
For
Slow
so
and
long.
Diddy.
Markiplier. Press B to blow.
All right, let's see how this looks without Vaughn here.
Whoops. I muted my own server. Didn't mean to.
Yeah, I had the press B to
Ah!
skills. As the text on
Is
the
it perfect?
one.
No. Is it better? 100%.
Oh, yeah.
You know what would be best is if we all just came out together and played video games.
Getting destroyed immediately.
Get over there.
Rude.
Lunala, get them, my baby.
We don't know how to play this one. Okay. Yes, you did. Thank you. Congratulations. Ah!
Oh my god, yes, Sandy, please fight Gardevoir. That would be the most funny thing.
Ah!
I can't. Apparently I can't.
Yeah.
Rude. Ah! How do I activate this fucking crap?
Which thing?
Right?
You just grab it and then it does it automatically, yeah.
I'm trying to. It's
Hey.
not letting me grab.
What the heck?
Let me see dog.
Someone used the trophy and it was dog.
I died because of that. I don't know where the fuck I am. There we go.
The dog, all it does is like block the screen. that's all it does. Don't touch me. Okay. Wait, two
Oh.
people died? What happened?
Oh,
Yo, Arceus, my goat!
Diddy Kong! Diddy Kong! Let's go! You're off to the side and the left, yeah. There you go. Woo! Woo! Woohoo! Shit! Bye, Alex!
I just got the final smash too!
Oh, please kill.
Oh, it will.
Good.
I'm at 100 and I'm Kirby.
Oh, stand idle and press B. Preferably when someone's around you.
Hi.
Oh.
it's gonna pop that in front of your face.
Ah, fucker. No!
What? Alright, bye bye.
No! Fuck. Shit. Ah! Oh my god, what is
Well,
going
did you
on?
join back in the room?
What?
Did you
Did
join
you
back
join
in
back?
the room?
Yeah.
I
Oh.
feel it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ah, fuck. Oh, shit!
Is it lagging again?
I guess.
Damn it!
I don't know what it is about your internet, but it is you.
But I played just fine
We
against other
killed so many cars just then.
They knew what they were signing up for. They're in Mario Kart.
What happened? I do too, but I don't know why they wanted it, but they wanted it, and here we are.
You know, if you think about it,
What did
with
what?
the amount of, are you guys talking about the
hate
Mario
echoes.
Kart?
Oh.
Oh, you mean the two new tracks that they did?
I just wanted to let chaos reign tonight. I apologize. I didn't realize chaos meant also fucking stop motion.
Were you guys playing on the Mario Kart stage?
That
Oh,
was a
Zach's
Mario
here
Kart
too.
stage, yes. Yes.
Yeah, because like, if you think about it, don't
I
you
haven't
think that
heard Zach at
Nintendo
all.
really foreshadowed on Shy Guy being in Mario Kart 7?
What about Mario Kart 7 Kirby? Kirby, Shy Guy?
Do you think that Nintendo foreshadowed the Shy Guy being in Mario Kart 7?
I mean, it's not even that he was foreshadowed. He, in fact, was.
Yeah.
He was there. There was no foreshadowing. He existed.
Zach, are you gonna talk?
Shy Guy was the next thing.
Maybe.
When you do local play,
Maybe.
yeah. He's there. Maybe.
Hi, Zach.
Hi,
Oh,
Zach.
Hi,
This is
Welcome to
Alex.
the AA meeting.
Oh, yes. I've been sober for about
5
2
minutes.
seconds.
0 seconds. I
0
cracked a beer
seconds.
on Mike and thought try to see if you guys would say anything.
You know,
Oh my god.
the fact that 3 people made the same joke about him not being sober for very long means we believe our friend has a problem.
No, it's not a problem. Also, I love the double Little Mac here.
Oh, I didn't even realize yet. Oh, hi, Vaughn.
Yo, kill Vaughn. Kill Zach. Kill Zach. Kill Vaughn.
No.
Kill Maggie. Whoever has that flag, kill them.
Kill everybody who's not me.
What the heck is that thing? The F?
If you hold it for I think 5 or 10 seconds, you can get an extra stock in stock matches.
What?
What?
Yo, let's go!
Damn it. I keep getting attacked by a fucking
Yeah,
alien.
Mother Brain fucked you over, dude.
Oh. Oh. Stop it.
Oh my god.
What the?
Air Mac, Air Mac, Air
Oh,
Mac,
Christ.
Air Mac,
Or, Jesus.
Oh my god, Air Mac is real.
Air Mac is real, guys. Oh, Air Mac is no more. Oh,
Air
No,
Mac
Air
is
Mac
all
is
but a
real.
myth.
yep.
Oh, you're lucky there was a wall there. Oh god!
What
You
the
could detect it.
fuck?
You could detect it.
I didn't. Oh.
Mine?
Get away from me. I'm scared of you.
What? I died?
Oh,
Why is there a what?
What is this?
Oh yeah, someone had Final Smash.
And I got it.
Is this stupid photo? Okay.
It's a
Let me just
photo.
Oh no, I'm dead.
God damn.
Yeah.
Oh god!
Heat.
Why did I do this?
Oh.
Go, go! Be my goat!
Heat.
bro, what? Where was I?
You got carried away by Go-Go.
Who's Go-Go?
The goat.
Okay,
I'll go to the group.
Go-Go Gadget.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, when you use your Final Smash, you don't get tiny anymore.
I sucked at arrow.
Ruin.
Or arrow?
Actually, that was fun.
I sucked ass at it. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but I sucked.
Oh, nothing.
Ron, you were
I
the
think I'm
last
only
person I
one
wanted to
sticking
use
out.
on, but I was worried I was going to lose it.
Fair enough. What the fuck did I do? Was that clapper trap? The fuck?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Feel that lag.
Uh-oh. Bye-bye.
Vaughn's ultimate power.
Snorlax, stay away.
No, just my big ass.
Oh no! Yeah, I'm dead.
No, you're
That
Snorlax.
photo.
She's so...
Oh,
so
damn,
She's so
look at me.
fluffy. And she looks huge.
Oh, who let Maggie heal?
I didn't even know she healed. Oh, no, 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 no.
Well,
Man, I
damn.
wish I could just put this on my docking station, but... Our...
I wasn't trying to ping pong.
Let me press A!
You're not allowed.
Oh, yeah, fuck this.
Oh, he fucking reflected the shell.
Yeah, why do you think I wanted to press A so bad? Now it's faster.
She doesn't look that fluffy anymore.
No, she's not that fluffy. I genuinely think it's because
Hi,
she's
Zach.
she's
How are you?
comfortable- She could be comfortable.
Um,
It's not like a...
Barely able to process what's happening on screen.
You know, when everything moves at 5 frames a second, I can't blame you.
How are you, Alex?
I'd be better if I wasn't moving at 5 seconds, 5 frames a second.
That's fair. When the game is so slow, you can't even talk right.
5 seconds a frame.
No, this was after we got him.
that's the only way Alex can talk is 5 seconds of frame.
Well, hey, whoa,
Whenever
no
the
fucking
lag
way.
spurts,
I
Alex
tried to
stops
attack
talking.
Alex, and I missed because I attacked his Pokemon instead.
I'm sorry,
Just
Maggie,
keep-
you're the one winning right now. That isn't
Zach,
me.
don't go for that. Don't go for that.
That isn't me.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Well, now
okay,
she's the
well,
only
that-
one left.
You
Well,
should
now
have
I have-
advised louder. Vaughn tried to
I
save.
swear, don't
Well,
go for
this
that.
is a real final smash that I was trying to get.
Oh, no.
Alright, we're doing sudden death, I guess.
God
Oh,
damn.
the
Or
battle
does
of the
Maggie win
husband
because
and
she has
wife.
one more kill? Nope, sudden death.
The battle of the husband and wife. Oh my god.
Is that when we got Winston?
Me happened.
Go, Maggie!
Good job.
Let's go!
He is.
Anyways, I got kicked out.
Yeah, actually,
Tiny they were.
dog.
I just came across that picture of them both laying on the couch. Why do you use my armrest?
Because I don't have an armrest.
Well, that's your own dang fault for not getting a chosen armrest.
Hold on, so what's
like
the
armrest
system
on
of
chair.
who plays and who doesn't play?
Bottom 2 is out.
Bottom
Yep.
2. Got
I'm
it.
out.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wasn't targeting you, Zach, because you just got here. So I was gonna try and let you live, but then you killed yourself.
Oh,
He
thanks.
did,
You're
in
so
fact,
kind.
kill himself.
I'm in, right?
Yeah, you're in.
Just let Darwinism take over.
So how dare you kill yourself? Well, I was trying to kill you.
How dare you kill yourself?
Huh?
Like, terrible.
What do you think? No,
Well,
what is this one?
We have been sitting here for a
I've
while.
been sitting here for a minute, but like, I've been sitting in this seat for way too long for the past like 2 weeks.
Whose fault is that?
Mine and Zelda's.
How far are you with that?
Mine
by the way?
and-
I mean, I've only been playing Breath of the Wild, but the last thing I have to do is climb a Ganon, so just prepping for that.
Oh, so you've done all 4 of the Divine
Yeah.
Beasts. Okay, cool. Which one was the hardest?
Thunderblight was fucked, dude.
Yep, I knew it. I knew it.
I spent literally every other boss was perfectly fine. I finished it immediately, and fucking Thunderblight.
No, yeah, no. Thunderblight is the one that everyone has trouble with. Vaughn, get in the stands.
Ass.
Game crash.
Oh,
Oh.
my god.
Yep.
But no, yeah, no. Thunderblight is the one everyone hates. Which one is your favorite?
I
though?
literally threw my fucking controller because I'm like, what the fuck? The one with in Ritos. Can't remember.
I want to say wait, the birds, right? Bird people.
Yeah, bird.
Yeah, that's Windblight.
There's Windblight?
Yeah, that's Windblight.
Easiest fucking easy. Cloud?
No.
Or Pit.
Pit.
Pit? Excuse me, not Cloud.
I know what
Yeah, Pit is from Kid Icarus. It's
I
don't really know how to
my
explain
fucking
it.
Ganon, fucking.
The original game's a platformer. The second game's more like a first-person shooter.
Oh, alright.
Oh, get close to them. Get close. Whoever had that gun.
Ah! Fuck!
Yeah.
Ah!
I'm just gonna walk over here and grab this. I rolled! Oh.
Yeah, you ain't walking nowhere, bitch.
You were getting hit by mother brain. Why'd you get it?
Ah. Doesn't let me grab items. I don't understand why. I was. Why didn't you get Pit? Pit is winning. I'm losing.
You were
You
both
fucking
right
dumbass.
You fucking dumbass. You both were there. You can control that, by the way. Oh my god!
God damn it. How'd you go from winning to losing 2 stocks in 10 seconds?
Because I'm bad at this game.
Okay.
Well, here's your proof right
They're
there.
walking off the fucking edge. Oh my god.
Maggie's playing his better mark.
At least I didn't die.
That final
first.
smash does not want anyone to reach it. There it is.
Oh my god, Kawasaki saved you!
She got cooked. Oh shit. Eat more
Mega
food.
laser.
Eat more food. Oh shit. Wouldn't have done shit.
I'm
Damn.
done, man, dad.
Fuck you, Ganon. Fucking Matthew Mercer.
What happened?
Really? Just fucking Matthew Mercer.
He plays Matthew Mercer's is the voice actor for Ganon in Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom, yeah.
So what I said is
Wait.
correct.
Hi there.
Matt Mercer, like the same voice of fucking It's High Noon in
Yes,
Overwatch.
sir.
Yep, same guy.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Oh, the same
Everyone's
voice
favorite
as It's
hero.
High Noon.
Yeah, because I forgot his real name.
Cassidy.
That's
Which-
right.
Oh, I was gonna say it was a different name before.
It was McCree before.
McCree.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They changed it from McCree to Cassidy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
because of
McCree,
allegations
but like,
with the streamer.
was it the streamer or was it someone who worked in the company?
Yes, they all make the joke of It's High Noon in a Critical Role because of that. Yes. And yeah, I believe the character was based on a streamer.
Vaughn, are you not coming back to play or?
So I decided to test to see if I am okay in a regular match, and I'm doing just fine, but I'm getting my shit rocked by fucking Rosalina.
All right, well then
Oh,
which one
never
do you got
mind. It
third?
was a real life designer. You're right, Alex. It was designer in Blizzard,
Yep, that's what I thought.
but he faced sexual harassment charges.
Yep.
Gross.
Which one of you got third?
Sandy.
That'd be me.
Sandy, how
Did
then?
you almost say your name instead of? Did you almost say Sandy instead of just me?
No.
It was me.
Okay. Sandy almost spoke in the third fucking person.
That's not unusual at all. I mean, Zach always talks about himself. In the
Zach's a narcissist.
and
Zach's an amazing guy.
Man, Zach's so cool. Wow. Zach's not a dork at all.
He's
Zach-
so dreamy.
Zach can pace himself with his drinks. Zach is sober king.
Zach can bolt his alcohol very well.
Zach's about to fucking get his ass kicked because I tried jumping and it wouldn't jump.
That was very.
Right.
Oh my god. What the fuck? Is this just what's gonna happen now? Okay.
He's
Is
done
this
now.
gonna be the whole fucking game?
That would be really funny, but no.
Jesus. Oh my god.
Alright, here comes the Reaper.
Oh my
shit.
god.
Well, now knows the
Sandy
Reaper because it's down in the
died
lava.
to the same thing twice.
Oh,
We got
I'm about to
another
die.
Sora! Do me proud, Maggie! Just notice. Okay, well, she's fucking. Alright.
Oh my god. I thought you died to that.
That would have been sad.
Oh.
The
Would've been
lag
funny.
almost made that happen.
Oh my god, Maggie!
Oh
Just
no,
got
it's
into
not a
the
good stage at
arena,
all.
she's
It's
already
very chaotic. It's
31%.
okay in like locals.
Almost made a comeback.
Oh, actually, I should.
I believe in you, Maggie. You can turn this around. This map is
Oh shit.
riddled with shit.
Yeah. Well, you wanted chaos,
Oh.
right?
Damn. She's dead.
Oof.
Big dead.
Yeah.
My Pokemon
Oh
just
my
got
god,
eviscerated.
she's not dead yet.
Bullshit.
Holy fuck. Oh,
Oh,
Oh, the lava on the top. No.
Hey.
All right, so Zach, how are you gonna get free stocks off of me, huh?
Very carefully.
God.
Yeah. How's that going?
And Zach's dead.
I died.
Oh, you lived.
Oh shit! All right.
Oh no, he died.
Oh,
He's slowly dying.
I thought
Oh,
I genuinely
great.
thought as soon as she said no, he died, he actually did.
Oh,
Fucking
okay, that works too.
And now
Oh,
And now he's
Well. Bye bye.
Damn, I thought I got you with that up B spike, but that up B spike is so weak.
Final Fantasy Cloud.
Oh, dude.
Is this because we were talking about
The winner
Cloud
is Final Fantasy.
Probably.
That's the only reason I picked him is because you guys were talking about him.
I felt a hair.
Oh.
I'm willing to sit out if you four want to play together.
Have someone else win besides you.
Well, that's why I was like, I don't mind.
Oopsies.
Oh.
I mean, Maggie won a couple times against me. But then I was right there in second, so.
Yeah.
Sephiroth. Yeah.
This is probably not going to be my last game, but I'm probably just going to be here for like 2 more.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, final 3.
Yeah. Final 3 works.
Yeah, this and 2 more.
Hey Vaughn, how you doing?
How you doing?
Good. So far, Wi-Fi is not laggy. Surprisingly.
I mean, it's been better since you left, no offense. So. Like, did you redo your connection?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Huh? Oh.
Yes.
Damn it, dude.
Oh, that's a Scyther.
Okay,
Thank you for saving my
bye.
life.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that's a big monkey. I don't want nothing to do with that. You're dead now.
No. I don't know where this. Okay. To be fair, I pressed that when Jack was right in front of me. And then I registered.
We love lag.
You mean to tell me that my fucking fireball did not hit this man as he fucking did his forward smash?
Nope.
I fucking call bullshit.
Well, damn. Okay.
Fuck you, Sephiroth.
Who's will?
Can we let
Alright.
Alex right now?
Oh shit!
There we go. I was just right in front of you, dude. Fuck me.
Fuck you, Sephiroth.
Oh shit! Kill Zach.
What?
Why am I?
Why not kill Alex, who's doing better than me? I just want
Why
to
not
say.
kill Zach, who is healing for existing?
Okay, but Alex is still doing better than me? Oh, wait, never mind, I'm winning, technically.
Yeah, I was about to say you're literally healing for existing.
Ah!
It took a while, but got big.
Fuck, who got that? I don't know.
It was me, but then it fell out of me.
Good. Ah, shit.
No one gets it. It flies away.
Ah, shit. Ah!
Oh, Cutie.
Where did I go?
3 minutes, 3 stops. Are
Oh my
you
god.
fucking?
What the hell is that purple
damn it.
big potion?
If you have over 100 health and
That's what I
you
get
carry
for
it,
trying to
it
get
heals
into the fucking fight.
Oh, sure, that works. I'll just go over here now.
That's not what I was trying to do, but whatevs.
Oh.
Sorry.
Damn it.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Ow.
Come on.
Hey, wait. Why the hell did you go down?
You know, typically Mario's pretty bad against swords, but when you give Mario a sword, he goes pretty good. Damn it.
There we go. Self-sacrifice to blow you up.
Yeah, whatever. That didn't go anywhere.
Fuck.
Oh no. Stupid shield.
Yeah.
He'll make it. He did.
I.
That back shield is really fucking annoying.
Oh, shit.
Ah, okay.
When I hit you, do the explosion.
Not
Yo, Kelly, free my
Splatoon.
goats!
Not Splatoon.
Yeah, come on! Let's go to the concert! Come on, Zach! Let's go to the concert!
There's only one Zach should go to that concert.
Damn it! Oh, but just half a second longer!
Bro, wait, why did your shield break? I missed that part.
Because of the fucking... I forget his name, that Pokemon that appeared just then. Phantom, not Phantom. I don't know what it is.
Oh, not the stage hazard?
No, it was the Pokemon. I think you sent it out.
I'll swap this
Okay. Well, that was fun. GG.
Yep, well played. Yeah, speaking of concerts, that's the reason why I was on late. Because tomorrow we're going to a concert, so we were prepping for that.
Oh, yeah,
one.
wait,
A lot
what
of fucking
concert?
concerts.
Well, that's what we like to do. We like to go to a concert at least once a year now. Cameron Whitcomb.
I can't say I heard of him.
I think I've heard
He's,
of him.
I mean, he's not niche, but he's like, he really got big this year, I'd say, right? The year before. Well, he's been around for a while, but like,
Wow.
but then like he probably got big again. What, this year, last year? Yeah, so 2 years ago. Yeah, there was no big time rush this year, so she went with Cameron Whitcomb as her second pick.
Fair enough.
Hey, speaking of
Oh.
concerts, two of my sisters, Bella and Sasha, are actually
Yeah.
going to BTS in Chicago in about a month.
Oh, that's sick as hell.
Interesting.
Oh wow, BTS. Huh.
I didn't even know
Yep.
they were coming to Chicago.
Actually, they're in Chicago right now for Lollapalooza, but they're going to be there again in a month.
Oh yeah, Lollapalooza. Yep. Ow.
Come here, Zach.
Vaughn, you and I are mortal enemies.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna let you two fight.
Yeah, yeet.
Thank you.
No. That was not for you.
You literally yeeted it to me, so.
What was that? What the fuck was that? Oh, that's a
Outlaw.
pal.
Oh shit!
Wonder
Oh,
what
the
the
squeaky!
fuck that
The
was.
squeaky!
Just move on.
Get out of here!
Excuse me, sir.
You still don't
Excuse
Get out of here.
me,
Get out of
sir.
here.
You don't have to look at
What
the
the
tiny screen.
fuck?
Don't you love Smash
You
Bros?
can look at the big screen.
Yeah.
What
It's
happened?
the same thing
Oh, you
on
got
both
hit.
of our screens.
I mean, you can hop right back in.
There's
There's one
so
more
much
match after
going on
this.
that I just lose myself, and I'm like, where's my character?
I feel like losing yourself will be easier on the small screen than the big one. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
but she's also the small character.
Yeah, that's true. How much taller is hold on, is Mario taller than Ness?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't be by much.
Okay amount. But Mario has like less colors going on, so it's much more obvious to be like, oh yeah, that's Mario.
Yeah! Yeah!
Ow, ow.
Fuck you, Vaughn!
Oh damn, okay, I got
If
fucked
only
up
he comes
again
back
there.
too.
Who wants it? Who wants it? Right here.
You!
What
I
the?
tried to go 2 for 1. I got 0.
Kamehameha!
No! No, 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 no!
Oh my god. My
Bye,
guy
Alex.
just got his final smash, and now he's gone.
No, I lost my jump from trying to get away from Vaughn's final smash.
Literally fighting a character. And
And oh, I was gonna say I'm failing. Oh,
Fucker did not need another one!
bye bye.
Well,
Dude, fuck off!
oh no! Oh no! Come here, Zach.
Come here, Zach.
No, I'm so fucking pissed.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking pissed. You guys were so fucking high up.
Hey, stop it! Stop it! Stop. Oh, I'm still alive.
How? You're the one person I want dead, and you're still alive.
Yay!
Apparently,
Oh my fucking
Vaughn
god, I
wants
hate this
himself
game.
there because he just walked right into the fire.
Darn it, you fucking knuckles!
Oh my god!
Here I come. Messing with the best of them.
Why is it just on here?
I don't know why that's on my feet. I don't know who that is. I'm getting rid of that because that was dark.
Doug!
Wait, what? Hello?
Doug! Oh,
Dog
bye
go.
bye.
Damn! I forgot about that.
Whenever Vaughn's
I did.
in, I get a connection error.
Is this the real one?
Bye.
Doesn't
What?
matter.
What? I thought hammer was supposed to make you invincible.
No, it doesn't.
Nope.
You can fly with it if you mash jump.
I didn't know that.
That's the thing.
The more you know.
Alright, well, you guys have fun with the final match.
Yep.
I didn't think that capsule was actually gonna explode though.
You know, I'm happy with my performance tonight. Maggie, you're in.
Oh, can you wait?
Yeah, you're out. Now you have to look at your screen.
Now I have to look at my screen.
I don't even know what you're saying.
No, she could look at your screen.
But
Bro,
she
I don't
can't
wanna
see the
get-
hand picking up her own character.
Oh, that part, yeah.
My brother just tried spitting water at me.
How'd that go?
Well, I shut the door on him, so I cock blocked it.
Good job.
Anyway, I didn't even pay attention to what place I got. Am I playing this match or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're in. It's me and Sandy who are out.
Is this the last one or no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What are we doing?
LG.
This is LG, okay.
Damn, okay.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
willing to do
sorry,
one
you just
extra match
joined,
with you,
Zach.
Zach, if you want.
That's alright. I knew what I was signing up for.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to do one more with you, Zach, if you want to do an extra match.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, but then that will probably be my last game.
Okay. I'm probably not reusing Croc for when I fight you, though.
That's fine. You're still gonna have to fight Byleth twice, though, because I will be picking Byleth and Maggie's picking Byleth.
That's okay.
And Britt's playing Byleth.
So am I.
Dude, I need to be in this match. Vaughn, get out of there. I need to come in with Byleth.
Looks like that.
I don't know how I would feel about 3 Byleths versus my K. Rool.
I mean, honestly, it's not a bad matchup at all. Like, Byleth is like a mid B tier, so like not a scary character.
Sure, it's just that I'm already like sick of it because of how many times I fight you with Byleth.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, we just have experience.
Yeah.
Ow!
Oops.
Also, who picked this podcast stage?
Me.
I love that. You know, it adds up.
Somebody needs to put like the green screen for it.
I mean, I could.
Yeet.
Zach. He's over here
What?
doing nothing.
What?
No budget.
Hell, he's shooting a cannon.
Not anymore. Oh, hello. Oh!
Okay.
No.
Okay, how the hell did Vaughn get that?
It's mine. It's always mine.
Zach was destroying the hell out of that thing.
I deserve to die because I was doing nothing for too long.
Apparently.
I agree.
I'm immune. I'm immune to it.
Apparently.
Well, not anymore.
You just pushed it off.
You saw that shit?
Yeah. It's like, oh, this gun kind of sucks. I'm going for this item. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, no, it's 100% what happened.
Ah! No, up B. What the fuck?
Yeah, the
Why
gun,
the fuck
gun
did
is
you
good
not-
when you have a lot of damage.
I need Zach to
Oh, no,
fucking
that's-
stop getting in the corner like a bitch. Zach
all
needs
have
to
the ability
fucking
to go and get
stop.
You have a problem with bitches?
Yes, I do. You are one, and you're a problem. Coward's Way is not the way we play this shit. We are Chaos Crew
That's
for a
Zach plays this
reason.
shit.
Oh.
I thought we were crewmates, not Chaos Crew.
No,
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 I
no,
mean
no, no,
tonight.
no,
I
no.
want it to be Chaos.
Oh, did your controller disconnect?
Yeah, but then I fixed it quickly. Oh, we're invisible?
Yeah, where is
That's-
everyone? I don't think anyone's moving.
Someone is.
I found where Zach was. I love that all you see was your belly armor, and that's it.
Yup. Take that. Oh. Oh.
I could have killed him.
There's always something. There's always something explosive. Alright. I guess. I choose you! I definitely didn't choose you.
Okay, awesome. This is such, like, nothing sauce
Oh.
music for this stage. Oh, damn! That got him?
Oh my god,
Damn.
I
Yeah, I
killed
kept
with
getting
the
Yeah.
caught by the fucking.
shit.
Oh, I'm
I
about to
don't
get a
even know
connection
what
error
just
again.
happened.
Oh, I
I
did.
killed with the dunk. How about that?
I believe in
Isaac
you,
is Master
Maggie.
Hand confirmed.
God damn it.
Well, shit.
Fucking bullshit.
What? No, I'm not.
You
Oh, sure. What?
and everything about you.
Oh, I don't know if I had a ring before.
I don't think he's talking to you.
Thanks, that's good.
Anyways, GG's to
I
everyone
just
who's
tried
not
to sip a
Zach.
brain for the first time. Sorry. What?
GG's.
Oh, I was being a bitch. Yeah.
Yes, GG's. Have a good night, Britt. Have a good night, Sandy.
Good night,
Peace.
Britt.
Have a
Sorry,
good one.
sorry I put down on your list, man.
Peace. Have a good night, y'all.
Peace.
The
What are you doing? Oh, I thought you were. I mean, yes, but millennial shit. Alright, GG's, y'all. Have a good night. Peace out. Bye.